Now that we have the base of our gnome fully established, the head, the body, the feet, the legs, and of course the quintessential gnome hat, it's time to start adding the details. So today we're going to add arms and start talking about some of the other details such as clothing, facial hair, and get into some of the facial features. I'm going to begin by adding the arms. To do this, I've prepared two small rectangular prisms of clay, similar to what we were doing with our handles for our mugs. I'm going to compress this and start forming it into an arm shape. Now you've got to decide how you want this arm to fit onto your gnome, what position your gnome is going to be holding his arms or her arms at. I'm going to have my gnome playing a banjo, so this arm is going to be down like that. I'm going to bend that into place, and it's critical that we smear this just like we did. We don't need to add water necessarily, but we want to smear this to align those particles, just like what we did with our handles, to ensure that this is going to be strong. And in the process, I'm trying to shape it to be a little more arm-like. Want to check the proportions, make sure it's not too long. I'm going to trim a little off the top here. Now here's the challenge with clay. If we just stick something on the surface, it's not likely to stay attached. It can very easily pull off of there. So what I recommend whenever adding an appendage like this, an arm or something else that is large enough that it's going to potentially break off or peel off, I like to do an additional support system. So here's what I like to do. I will take my gnome and I'm going to cut a little hole right where the shoulder would be. I'm going to take that out. I'm going to take this clay that I just pulled out of there and expand it a little bit. And I'm going to add this to this piece. So I'm going to do a little scoring. You should have a scratchy tool like this. I'm going to score that, add a little bit of moisture, smear, smear, smear. Then I'm going to add this piece onto that. I'm really going to push that together. You can even take one of my plastic tools. I'm going to blend this to essentially create a little plug. This plug is going to go inside of that hole there to create a lot more surface area to connect with. So now I've created a little brace. We want that to fit inside of this rather snugly. So I'm going to compress this to make this a little smaller. I'm going to do a little more shaping to make these arms look good. I'm going to go ahead and using one of my tools here, define the hand from the sleeve before I attach this. Don't necessarily need to get into the detail on the hand just yet. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and make my second arm, following the same process. Want to make the two arms proportionate. If you don't do this smearing technique, it will most likely start to crack as you bend it into this arm shape. I'm going to start by just making mitten hands. I don't want to be too detailed just yet. A mitten will be detailed enough for this phase, and we'll add the individual fingers a later on. That's looking good. Now I'm going to do the same process, cutting a small hole. Want to make sure that these line up. I'm going to go ahead and add that, remembering to do a little score. Score, score, score. Add some water. Smear that to create some slip. And add that plug. Now we are ready to attach those hands and arms. I'm going to take a little water and add that to the inside of this. And I'm going to score everywhere that the arm is going to touch the side of the body. We're going to use as much surface area as possible. So I'm going to score all along the outside here. Score, score. It's better to score a larger area. You can always smooth these lines away than to not score enough. So I'm going to score that area and really work some moisture in there. Smear, smear until all those lines go away. I'm going to do a quick score on here as well. Add some moisture. Then we're going to press that in. Now it should take a little pressure to push that arm into that socket we created. And we want to get the sides to press together as well. Got to leave some room for the banjo that's going to go under this arm right here. Then we can take our plastic tool and blend that together. Now we're ready to attach the second arm. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to score everywhere that arm is going to come in contact with. This arm, it's actually just going to be around that area because it's sticking out, so I don't even need to go over that way much. Score this part, add some moisture. And really push that together. I'm going to do some additional blending. Now to really ensure that this is well attached, I'm going to go ahead and blend it from underneath here to just doubly secure this. So I'm taking my blending tool and blending that together to expand the surface area as much as I can. I'm going to do the same thing on this arm. Just blending it together to really make sure it's well attached. It's looking very gnome-like now. Next thing I'm going to do is add a beard onto this face. To do that, I'm going to score the area where I want to add the beard. Add some water. Blend that together. That's going to make this surface area nice and sticky so that when we add the beard, it will stay And using some of my scrap clay here, going to commence beard making. As I press that down, I'm going to start creating a little bit of the beard-like texture, simultaneously attaching the beard. Before I get the mustache, I'm actually going to take a little coil and make some lips here. My gnome is going to be singing and playing the banjo. I'm going to go ahead and add that lip. I'm actually going to go and open up, just like so. Now I can go ahead and add a mustache. Give him a big bushy mustache. I'm going to press those into place. I've already scored that area when I was scoring the beard. Taking some clay, I'll extend my beard on the side here. I want to define the edge of the face from the beard. So I'm going to take one of these plastic tools with a smooth edge. I'm going to make a little bit of a definition there. Now I'm going to add a piece over on the other side to complete the beard. And we're going to add more detail and come back and finish texturizing this. Right now we're just getting all the major pieces added. Next thing, I think we can go ahead and add the nose on there and sink in the eye socket. So I'm going to just take my finger, add a little bit of water, and I'm going to press in using a little bit of water, supporting the head, and that's going to give me a little bit of eye sockets. Then we can take our scoring tool, do a little scoring where we're going to attach the nose. If you were to add a very large nose, you would want to do a similar technique to what we did with the arms by cutting a hole in the face and then putting the nose on. I don't plan to do that, so I'm going to take a sphere, one sphere like this, press that in place. A trick to make it spherical is to take your sponge and pat it into place using a damp sponge. That will help keep your nose from getting too flattened. Now I'm going to take two smaller spheres, to add on either side of the nostril here. One over here. And one over here. We can do a little bit of blending. I'm going to hollow out that eye socket a little bit more. Give a little definition under the nose, between the mustache and the nose. Getting carried away, couldn't resist putting in some of that mustache texture. Now that we have the basic features of the face and the whole body established, we can start enhancing this figure with details and added textures. Using some clay, I'm going to add the bottom part of his jacket. I'm going to take a coil of clay. I'm going to score around where I want that jacket to go. And I'm going to add some water. Smear, smear. I'm going to work this coil around here. I'm going to press it in, just blending it upward. I'm going to continue around to the front side. I'm going to add a belt here, so I'm going to press this in a little bit to make that belt look more authentic and realistic. To add the belt, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take a coil, and I'm just going to add a little water. I shouldn't need to score this because that's fresh clay I just added. Press that in, flatten it out so it looks like a belt. Also realize I forgot to add some hair, so I'm going to go ahead and add some hair on the back of his head. I'm going to take a modified coil here. You want to get a sense that that hair is coming out from under the hat. Using this tool, I'm going to push the hair under the hat. I'm also going to give him a bit of a definition between his coat and his neck, using the same method I did with the edge of his jacket down here. I'm going to take a coil and add a little collar around here. We can add a little belt buckle. Now we can let this sit and come back to it when it's little more stable and dry, and we can go ahead and refine and add more details. So now I'm going to demonstrate a few refining techniques in a way that we can continue to finish this and make it look even better. So I'm going to take one of my flat tools here and just clean up, refine the shape. For the hands, you don't necessarily need individual fingers, but what I would recommend doing is making modified mittens and then just taking one of these plastic tools. You can divide and make simple fingers. Now I'm going to continue adding some details. I would encourage you to really think about textures and little accessories that you can add to really make your gnome more personal. Hopefully you have a paintbrush handy. You can take our sponge and refine the surface a little bit. If you have a paintbrush handy, this is a great way that you can make some folds in the fabric. I'm encouraging you to take the time to really refine your work to add details, to make it personal and expressive. Good luck and happy sculpting.